Hello, hello, hello. Welcome into Untitled. Kendall Valenzuela here with you with, of course, Amanda, aka Cooterdoodle. But we've got a super special guest today. We've got the one and only Thor Nystrom also joining us here. Thor, welcome in Untitled. If you have a name for the show, you could let us know anytime during this next hour, please.
Sure. Yeah, we can toss some ideas out, but I'm just happy to be here. This is an honor. I've been waiting to get on this show for a while, so I'm happy that appreciate you guys having me on.
Now, how would you have done with the hot sauce? Would you have gone all the way? Do you like spicy foods? What? Because we can pencil that in for next time if you'd like.
I'm from northern Minnesota, right up by the Canadian border. I don't do well with the spicy. I saw that. I don't think I would succeed in that scenario. But hey, if you want to toss me out to the deep end, I'll try to swim.
Perfect. Amanda, how's it going? How you doing today?
Doing good. I'm glad Thor's here. I mean, look, we had to work through the wait list. It's pretty backlogged. I'm glad we got you on, But I'm ready to talk rookies because Thor, you are my guru, like my rookie guru. So I need to hear all the good words about all these new fresh legs,
Yeah, I love it. But before the show, you were putting on an audition for that. You're pretty good yourself, Cooter. So, but yeah, well, excited to talk about the rookies.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. Before we get into the rookies, which you all know, if you know Thor Nystrom's on the show, we're talking about his guys. So make sure you stick around for that. But let's go through Did You Hear right now, presented by Bud Light. All right, starting off the top here, guys. Thor, I got to start this one with you because we actually don't usually get a ton of drama before, the Did You Hears, but now we get some drama with Caleb Williams and the Bears. So there's an article, there's a lot of articles going out right now. The one that I read this morning was from ESPN, and the headline is Caleb Williams sought way around to going to the Bears. And I thought that was pretty huge. There were some quotes in there from his dad saying, quote, Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die. Quote, I don't want my son playing for the Bears. I mean, Thor, there were quotes from this saying that they tried to maybe do anything that they could to not get Caleb Williams to go to the Bears. Even potentially looking at him going to the UFL and being a quarterback there. So what do you make of all this coming out just in the last couple of hours here today?
Yeah, I mean, not fun for the Bears. You gotta, or Caleb, that stuff, or his father. I mean, you have some stuff you have to clean up there from a PR perspective, obviously. But the fact that they had that viewpoint during the process last year, not a surprise at all, right? I just think if you were the number one overall quarterback prospect, and that was the scenario, you might have preferred a couple of the other situations there, right? And in that story, Caleb was saying that his preference was to get to the Minnesota Vikings. J.J. McCarthy said after the last draft that all the quarterbacks, every single one of them, the top 6 guys or whatever that went in the first round last year, top 12, whatever, that they all wanted to go to the Vikings. And at the moment, it might have sounded apocryphal or, he was trying to put some shine on his own situation, but I think that was literally true.
I mean, Amanda, it's again, we don't usually get, there's usually some drama in the middle of May, but this one with some of the quotes and then some other things that came out were that at sometimes Williams said he would watch film alone with no instruction or guidance from the coaches. So for us to look at all that and look at the season that he had last year, 20 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions, 62.5% completion percentage as well. But he was also sacked a league high 68 times. It almost feels like maybe we're throwing the rookie season out the door just because of Shane Waldron and everything that we saw with Eberflus, maybe?
I mean, it was messy, but no, I think, Thor, you kind of nailed it. No one could blame him given the context of what was going on, that maybe he didn't want to go there. It is interesting that it's all coming out now that, Daddy Bear was playing the Mama Bear role, trying to control it from the background, which I find surprising. But at the same time, even though Caleb Williams constantly was getting sacked and all this stuff was going on narratively that wasn't supportive, he didn't have the worst season. I mean, you look at 3,500 yards, we've seen worse out there. And now they've boosted him up with this draft, which I know we've talked about it before. Colston Loveland, tight end there. We've got Luther Burden. So they're trying to get him help. And this season, at least we come out of it knowing that, hey, he's got a chance to look really good in this second season.
Thor, what was your process when you were looking at Caleb Williams coming out of college and then when he was drafted to the Bears? Because now it looks like the Bears have done things right where they want to make sure that he's not going to lead the league in sacks with 68 sacks. Like they're trying things out, right? They've got Drew Dahlman, a new 3-year deal. They went out and got Joe Thuney. They got Jonah Jackson. So with all your analysis that you had coming out for his rookie season, do you think that it's going to be more of a sophomore boom, or do you think it's going to take a little while to see a good Caleb Williams?
I'm interested to see him and Ben Johnson's offense. Ben Johnson, it's like the watchmaker thing and the timing stuff, and we have not seen much of that from that. That was to your question. That was my nitpick about Caleb Williams coming out. You heard a lot about he likes to scramble around and extend the plays, and some of the areas where that could become problematic. You had the last season an extremely elevated pressure to sack ratio, and with that process, we were talking about pressure to sack ratio more than I'd ever heard, and it was because of Caleb Williams, and then to a lesser extent, Jaden Daniels. But the part of Caleb Williams' game that it was sight unseen. It was the timing, intermediate concepts, the anticipatory stuff. He never did that at Oklahoma or at USC under Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley recognized this guy is the most talented player to any field that we're stepping on. I got the trump card guy, and he let Caleb do his high wire act, the thing of more than 3 seconds after the snap and he's scrambling around, and now you get a second opportunity, you're the receivers to freelance around. The stuff that fans construe as the easy stuff, the quick hitters taking advantage of intermediate spacing, throwing the ball before the receivers break, so when he turns around, the ball is on his hands. That's the stuff Caleb Williams needs to be taught. Again, we didn't see it in college, because if he can prove that he can do that, that's where the other elements of his game that we just know, as being his game, they will play up. You have to have more pitches, as it were, using a baseball metaphor. If you can throw 102 miles an hour in college, you're going to strike out a lot of guys. Once you get up to the higher levels of the minor leagues, you need to have a changeup. You need to have a breaking pitch, even if it's just get you by. And that's what that stuff is for Caleb Williams. They obviously brought in Ben Johnson because his offenses feature a lot of that. That doesn't necessarily mean 1-to-1 that Caleb Williams will just immediately develop it. Mm-hmm. That's something we have to watch out for. But helping out the offensive line like they did was a big step with that. And their pass catchers, they have one of the more intriguing sets of pass catchers in the entire NFL. Now after you add Loveland and Burden to that group.
So let me ask you this, Thor, really quickly, and then we'll go to the next Did You Hear? But QB8 off the board right now, that's where Caleb Williams is going. Is that too high? Is that just right? Or where would you put him with off the board on underdog drafts right now?
That's too high. Yeah, it's too high. I mean, like he is a good athlete, and you can derive some value from that, but he uses his more to scramble around. And until we get some sort of proof of concept on that, there's this funny stat of the Bears have gone under their win total. It's like, 9 of the last 10 years. It seems like, both the betting market, the fantasy market, they're always a bit too high on the Bears. So we have another round here of this is the Bears breakout year. Maybe, I wouldn't be putting that kind of draft equity behind that supposition.
All right, next, Did You Hear, Amanda? We have to go over to a running back in King Henry. I mean, Derrick Henry is doing it all, but he agreed to a 2-year, $30 million extension with the Ravens. Going to be 31 years old, I think. And he was one of those guys where last season when they made that move, it almost, Amanda, felt like the worst kept secret in the NFL. Like they knew they wanted to go out and get Derrick Henry, and he did just that. He helped them win games, and he was a huge part of that offense. So feels good to kind of see that for Derrick Henry. It looks like he's also going to be finishing out his career with the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting. What is it? He's now the highest paid running back over 30 years old. And, there's always that looming age cliff, running back cliff that everyone wants to talk about. But Derrick Henry seems to have found the fountain of youth and the way to get over that. I know he's talked about this 250,000 body maintenance plan where he's not eating fried food and dairy and gluten and artificial sugars, pretty much everything that I eat, he avoids. But it's this idea that in 2024, he didn't show any signs of slowing down. I mean, he was first in first down rushes. He was first in yards after contact. He was first in missed tackles forced. at 30 years old. So I don't see him slowing down. And it, like you said, is so exciting to see that he switched teams and continued to do it almost kind of in this Saquon Barkley-esque, like, look what I can do. I don't, I just need the team to support me and I can show you what I got. So I'm so excited that he's getting paid.
I mean, Thor, it feels like one of those things with Derrick Henry, especially where I don't want to be the one that tries to predict when the fall off happens, because it almost feels like Derrick Henry, it's never like Thor, it almost feels like it's never going to happen with him. So keep paying him, keep him on this roster, keep him happy, because it just feels like until he decides that his career is over, we're just not going to see that.
Yeah, and zero signs of decline last year, right? And 325 touches over the 17-game schedule, 1,921 yards, 5.9 yards per carry. No signs of slowing down, and obviously the offense that he got into very advantageous for him as well, right? Lamar Jackson's his legs. You have to account for that, as with being the defense. That helps out Derrick Henry as well, and all the opportunities you get around the goal line. The 16 rushing touchdowns last year. He'd be a guy that I'll be bullish on until we start to see some signs of slowdown. We haven't seen them yet.
We haven't seen it. I know the three of us aren't going to be the ones that try and predict it either, but he has had 2,355 career regular season carries along with 174 receptions, but he's the king for a reason. And just keep on going. But he did get that extension, 2-year, $30 million with the Baltimore Ravens. Last one here, Thor, and you're going to hear a timer here soon, and that's going to be our producers telling us to wrap it up. But you just keep talking if you want to. You just blow right past it. Swing will just get in your ear and it'll be fine. Jaden Reed is a top receiver despite Green Bay drafting Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. That is the quote, Thor, that we've seen kind of going around from the Packers GM. I'm curious with you because Matthew Golden, for all that it's worth, when he was drafted in the first round, that was the first time the Packers did that since 2002. I've seen Matthew Golden go off the draft board ahead of Jaden Reed. So I'm curious where you think this pecking order really is going to land by the time we get to August and September.
Well, first off, Jaden Reed isn't a top receiver even without the drafting of those two guys. And I still think Matthew Golden, I thought he profiled as an awesome number 2 receiver. So it's kind of funny, right? I mean, Josh Jacobs, we need the wide receiver 1. Now this year you're hosting the draft, and the team that all these awesome wide receiver classes in the past, when they had wide receiver needs, they eschewed the wide receiver position. This is the year you let your hair down with Matthew Golden in round 1, and then Savion Williams there in round 3. Savion, they were talking about it. Oh, we're going to send him down the field, and you don't see athletes like that. Savion Williams' ball skills stink. The play caller that was talking about that, though, he's like, oh, we're going to get him the ball, hand him the ball. That's Savion. That you manufacture his touches, whether it's behind the line of scrimmage or within 5 yards. The referendum's in on that. Stop this nonsense of we're going to turn him into this full-time receiver. TCU tried for years, didn't work out. But you get a Cordero Patterson type guy there. Matthew Golden, again, if you had a stud boundary guy on the other side, a true blue wide receiver 1, that's the best situation for him, because Matthew Golden beats single coverage, can win at all 3 levels of the field.
Look at you. It's like you're a professional. We should have you on every single week because you hear the time you're like, it's time to wrap up. Amanda, I'm curious with you. I'm curious with you, between Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, are you trying to draft one over the other? Are you trying to sprinkle in both of them throughout your drafts? What are you looking at with this team?
I'm with Thor. I mean, if your GM's having to meet with your agent to be like, hey, by the way, you're still the wide receiver 1. Nobody's saying that to Amon-Ra. Nobody's having these meetings to assure them that they're the number 1 guy. So no, it's going to be Matthew Golden for me if I'm taking a Green Bay wide receiver.
Okay, I like it. All right, a lot of drama in the first segment here, but that was Did You Hear, presented by Bud Light. All right, fantasy football fans, sure, NFL season may be long over, but next season's action is already well underway. We're talking big trades, new signings, draft order shuffles, you name it, and all this preseason NFL action is easier to enjoy with the official beer of the NFL. So get Bud Light delivered today and enjoy every season projection, every player trade, every coaching change and draft pick with the clean, crisp taste of Bud Light, the official beer of the NFL. Stock up now for the offseason and enjoy Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. All right, continuing on right here with Untitled, we've got Amanda, of course, here with us, Cooterdoodle to all of you, and Thor Nystrom. So Thor, because you're here, you know we have to talk rookies with you. You did all that work preseason. You already had your Christmas and your New Year's here with all these rookies going everywhere that they could have with the NFL draft. So we're going to do a little cup half full rookie edition. So we're going to be a little bit positive here about some of these incoming rookies. Thor, I want to start with you and your player that you are very optimistic about, RJ Harvey. So what do you see in him with the Denver Broncos, and what do you like about him?
Yeah, on our live show, day 2 for Fantasy Life with me and Matthew Friedman, I lost my mind when this pick was selected because I was so bullish on RJ Harvey this process, RB6 on my board, and I had him 75th overall, which I was one of the highest people in the media on him, and then Sean Payton ends up taking him 60th overall, and the fact, even more bullish than me, and the fact that it was that system and that guy making that selection, all fantasy owners, you needed to stand to attention right then. That Sean Payton, historically, an offensive play caller that throws to the running back position as much as anyone or more than anyone. Obviously, Alvin Kamara, people bring that up. RJ Harvey's being brought in here to be the Alvin Kamara of this system. And then, of course, the quarterback, Bo Nix, he loves throwing to the running backs as well. So RJ Harvey, when we were down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, and I was asking RJ Harvey, what are you hoping to prove to the NFL this week? And he was talking about his receiving game beyond the line of scrimmage, winning before the ball had been thrown. At UCF, the way that they used him as a receiver wasn't super dynamic. It was a lot of check down stuff, a lot of stuff behind the line of scrimmage, a lot of stuff where he had to create. Despite that, RJ Harvey, one of 2 backs in this past draft class, that have 1.25 yards per route run or more each of the last 2 years. When I told RJ Harvey that, when he was sort of like going into this thing of like, I have to show this because I didn't get to show this enough in college. And I was like, dude, you are one of the more decorated receiving backs in this class. Even so, and he sort of lit up and he chuckled because he's like, I didn't know that. But now for a guy who all he wanted to do was like, send me beyond the line of scrimmage a little bit more. I can beat people on my route path and stuff like that. We saw that in Mobile. The linebackers, the strong safeties could not stay with him in space. And now you have died and gone to heaven, RJ Harvey, as far as this landing spot. I expect RJ Harvey to be a star right away in a system that is perfectly suited for his skill set.
I was going to say, Thor, it felt like a Sean Payton pick. If anyone were to look at a pick for Sean Payton, you look at RJ Harvey and you say, yeah, that's one of his guys, because we know that Sean Payton likes to manufacture those kind of like pass catching running backs, get them involved as much as they can. So I wanted to just ask you, because Dwayne McFarland has his floor ceiling projections for these rookies. So the floor projection for RJ Harvey, 8.6 fantasy points per game. Ceiling projection, though, is what we really want, 17.1 points per game. So with this backfield, with Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin, do you feel like they're still going to do the, musical chairs with their running backs, or now that they have RJ Harvey, it's really just going to be his backfield? We should just expect that right away.
Yeah, this is RJ Harvey's backfield. Those names you just said, congrats, you guys are background singers now. This is RJ Harvey's show, and they will be building tenets of their offense around, again, RJ Harvey's skill set, right? A bowling ball build on that kid, but you have legitimate 4.4 wheels, 4.4 flat. RJ Harvey, he thought he was going to run in the high 4.3s. That's what he was running during the pre-draft test, the pre-draft training, leading up to the pre-draft process. But he has home run ability. I think he's better between the tackles than people give him credit for. You have that bowling ball build. He's very, very shifty and darty. He talked to me about former quarterback, actually, went signed at college, Virginia, as a 5'7.5" dual threat quarterback. He spent 1 year there, and that's when he transferred to UCF. But he was talking about how he sees the field a little bit different, being the former quarterback, and that there's a lot more of scanning the field like a quarterback does, trying to see the way that the defense is aligned and trying to sort of in your head ballpark the way that their movements are going to be right after the snap and sort of set about your plan before the snap. But yeah, multi-dimensional talented player in RJ Harvey.
I like it. It's definitely one, Amanda, where I'm going to make sure that I have RJ Harvey on a lot of my fantasy teams this season. But one rookie that you're optimistic about is Jack Besh going over there to the Las Vegas Raiders. What did you see about him? What do you like?
Look, there's a little hometown love here because he is from Louisiana. He went to high school here. And so I've heard some whispers, he sounds like a good guy. I have friends of him. But what I'm excited about, and Thor, maybe you can give me a little more insight into this, but he used to play tight end, right, for a couple of years, and then he converted to wide receiver in 2023. He's this big, massive guy. He's not known for his speed, right? But everybody talks up his hands. They say he has sticky hands and this toughness. And all I needed to hear, Thor, was that somebody comped him as like this Puka Nacua comp where he's, he doesn't have this breakout speed, but he's a big guy and he's going to catch the ball when you need it. And that's really what I was excited about on top of, and I know Kendall and I have talked about the Raiders and how, if you're on one of those teams this season where as a fan, you just kind of want to jump ship, the Raiders aren't a bad choice. But we know Brock Bowers is going to be a big part of the offense. We know Ashton Genty is, but then there's Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker. I mean, what's next? This guy has the opportunity, the landing spot to have a great season with the Raiders day one. And so I'm super excited. Thor, I want to hear your thoughts because I get the rookie fever. I can get all in and excited. And so maybe you need to temper me back a little bit and tell me I'm getting too excited. But I'm imagining this, Puka Nacua-esque guy at the Raiders, and I'm all in.
I'm not tempering anything. And as far as the Louisiana connection, this was a c'est le venton roulé landing spot for Jack Bech. That team, the Raiders, when they submitted that card, they did not have a slot receiver on the roster. Right. I mean, Jack Bech became your starting slot the second that card was turned in. And to your point, Cooter, earlier in the career, stays home at LSU. 2021, when their receiving core was stacked, true freshman year for Jack Bech, 43 catches, 489 yards, 3 touchdowns, true freshman. He was pushing guys aside. Malik Neighbors was on that roster. Brian Thomas. Right. I mean, he was getting on the field over some guys that turned out to be mega studs. Had some injuries there. Right. And the LSU, the next season, you still have all the stud receivers. Now you're injured. You're on and off the field. He obviously gets bypassed there, ends up going to TCU. Last year, you get the breakout. You were mentioning the thing of at LSU, they list him as a tight end. At TCU, they list him as a receiver. Close to the same utility, though. It's a big slot. Either way, do you see it, whether you want to call him a tight end big slot like Evan Ingram or whether you just want a wide receiver big slot, but that's what he does. And he's going to win from the slot. Guy that I compare to Eric Decker, who played college ball about a mile from where I'm sitting right now, but down the field, a guy that can very good ball tracking and then the body contortions to it. Always give yourself the best of it, no matter the throw that you're given. And then you mentioned the ball skills there with Jack Bech, even poorly thrown balls. He turns a lot of incompletions into completions, which he had to do last year at TCU because the quarterback play wasn't very good. So Jack Bech, I'm with you. I expect him to be a fantasy relevant guy from day one. You're stepping into the starting slot role for a Chip Kelly offense, and an offense that's going to be way better than we've seen the last couple of years there in Las Vegas. Geno Smith in there, Genty in there, to your point. So yeah, wheels up for Jack Bech.
Oh man, that's all I needed to hear, Thor. I'm so excited. I'm ready to just put on the silver, the gray and black right now. I'm ready to go. I'm all in on RJ Harvey, all in on Jack Bech, Kendall, Mason Taylor. Get me in on Mason Taylor.
Another Louisiana.
Yeah, I was like, listen, we've got a theme going here. I was told I couldn't do Cam Scattaboo anymore because now that's already been too much. So, just know, Cam, if you're watching this, that we are thinking about you in this spot. But no, it's interesting. Always thinking about him. But I wanted to go a little bit more down depth charts because, some of these top guys like you guys talked about, I'm like, yes, I'm all in on them and I'm super optimistic. But I think Mason Taylor's interesting, especially if we look at it from a dynasty tight end premium kind of angle where people are looking and trying to say, all right, well, if I don't get the Colston Lovelands, if I don't get the Tyler Warrens, where else could I look? And, Mason Taylor, for everything that Thor and I talked, and we talked a lot about him, pre-draft, during that pre-draft process, Thor. And I really like this landing spot. He is the son of Pro Football Hall of Famer, defensive end, Jason Taylor, nephew of Zach Thomas. There's bloodlines here with him. And so I really like Mason Taylor. And I think the one thing that people won't be optimistic about is just that it's going to be Justin Fields as his quarterback. And I understand that 100% because Justin Fields, we saw him in those 6 games with the Steelers last year, and he looked really good. I mean, he really did look good. But the one thing that Justin Fields has is that dual threat ability, that rushing upside that we always want for fantasy, but that does take away, targets and volume from some of these other pass catchers. So for me, Thor, when I look at Mason Taylor, I'm just thinking from the angle of, they've needed a really good tight end for a long time. And And I think getting another weapon for Justin Fields is really important and maybe being a little bit overlooked here with Mason Taylor. He's not going to be one that you're spending first round draft capital on, especially in Dynasty. Like, you don't need to be doing that, but it's someone that when we look around maybe mid-season, and if Justin Fields does improve as a passer, that Mason Taylor could be one of those guys that definitely gets, fed a little bit more here. And we'll be looking around saying, wow, we should have maybe thought of this before. So I like Mason Taylor. I know, Thor, when you were doing your process with him, you liked parts of his game a lot too.
Yeah, as far as year one fantasy utility, you can see this glass half full. You can see this glass half empty. Going to the segment name on this one. What is the good? Well, you're going to step into as much playing time as you can handle, my man. Year one, right? I mean, they didn't have much there on the tight end depth chart. He will be the immediate starter. And then the pass catchers there, you have very little outside of Garrett Wilson, obviously. So the target should be there as well. Obviously, that's good in terms of the situation. The thought experiment aspect of it is Mason Taylor, even though last year only one drop over 78 targets, 79 targets in his career, they just used him within 6-7 yards of the line of scrimmage. An enormous part of his usage in college came with that. Didn't see him as much down the field, so that'll be curious about. And then the other thing, Justin Fields didn't go to tight ends as much at Ohio State. Are we going to see a change in preference there with Justin Fields going to the tight end a little bit more?
Well, you just kind of mentioned it. We talked about cup half full. Now we kind of have to go cup half empty. A little bit more of a not great outlook for some of these rookies. But before we do that, let's hear from our friends over at Bud Light.
Check out the new whip.
Tight.
Fully custom.
How many Bud Lights can you fit in that puppy?
As many Bud Lights as it takes.
That's a lot of Bud Lights. You have to give me one of those.
All right, heading over to cup half empty here with these rookies. We already went through the optimistic views for 3 of these players, but now it's time to go through 3 that maybe we're just being we're being cautious here, Thor. I think that's the best way to say it. Not that these guys don't have talent, not that they couldn't add value potentially to their team, but maybe pump the brakes if you want to try and spend good draft capital on them. So your first guy is Jalen Noel, wide receiver for the Texans. So what are you thinking either about the landing spot, about the group of receivers that he's with that makes you just a little bit cautious with him?
I love Jalen Noel's game. He was a second rounder on my board. I had him 52nd overall. He ends up falling to 79. So I love that pick for the Texans, but this is a weird spot for a player that I like, right? A slot only for Jalen Noel. That's the reason he ends up getting pushed down the board. This situation here, I think Christian Kirk year one is going to be playing the slot there with your boundary receivers being Nico Collins and then Jalen Noel's collegiate teammate, Jaden Higgins on the other side. So year one, it's a little bit tricky to get on the field. And then after that, you're dealing with Tank Dell, presumably coming back off injury. Do we ever see the Tank Dell that we saw before? Do we ever see the Tank Dell we've seen at Houston? We'll have to see Houston Cougars, I'm talking about. We'll have to see coming off injury there for Tank. But there's problematic aspects on both sides of it. But again, I love Jalen Noel's game. So it's just a tough landing spot, and we'll have to see. But I would be a little bit more trepidatious about both short and long-term viability for Jalen Noel than I would have been in advance of the draft just because of the landing spot.
Trepidatious, by the way, really great word. I know you throw these words around all the time where I'm just like, I need to shout you out for some of the things that you just say. I'm like, oh, that's a great word, trepidatious. Thor, what about CJ Stroud? Like, I'm just curious with you and just the offensive outlook overall. Count the rookies in it however you want. 2024 was bad. I mean, that's the only way that we can put it. Like, it was just awful. Is bad either way you look at it. 2023 was the season that we kind of fell in love with him, and I know you talked a lot about him coming out as a rookie as well. Do we get the 2023 version of CJ Stroud? Do we get the 2024 version of CJ Stroud in 2025, or is it right in the middle? We're going to be back. He's going to be good, but maybe not as good as we've seen.
That depends on something entirely outside of CJ Stroud's control, which is, do we get the 2024 Houston Texans offensive line? Do we have legitimate? Do we they tried this offseason? Maybe they could have tried a little bit harder, but they have tried to upgrade it. You know, the signing of Cam Robinson for the one tackle. There's a real shot that Arianti Ursary from Minnesota, the round 2 pick, that he will be starting right away, whether that's a right tackle, whether that's inside. But yeah, that offensive line was a real problem last year, and that was was the issue there. The interior penetration, you talk about pulling the pin out of a grenade right after the snap, where they just didn't have a shot. If that has been, the interior offensive line is still kind of problematic there. He has plenty of weapons. I think it was probably unfortunate for Houston in round one in at the end of April there, when the Vikings right in front of them took Donovan Jackson, the last sort of immediate start offensive lineman that people were looking at. Houston immediately bailed out of that pick. So the offensive line, have they done enough in order to improve that for next year? But yeah, CJ Stroud has all kinds of weapons.
Yeah, we're going to find out soon, too. He was sacked 52 times last season, which was the second most in the NFL, and that was way more than the 38 that he got his rookie season. And then when we talk about pressures, it was 38. He was pressured on 38.6% of his dropbacks, which, again, second most in the NFL. So even if you could get it a little bit better, Thor, like you said, you're hopefully going to find more success for CJ Stroud because the talent's there. That's the other thing. I don't think 2023 was a fluke, but we definitely want to hope that he gets back to kind of those ways than what we saw last season. Amanda, going to your oh yeah, go ahead, Thor.
Well, I was just going to say interior pressure is particularly problematic for CJ Stroud's game. I always thought, him coming out, my evaluation of him, it's kind of like a sniper, because you see when he has his base under him, the mechanics are just absolutely perfect. The way to try to devolve his game is pushing him off of his spot. What does it faster than interior pressure, right? And you see a devolving of his accuracy and his placement as he is on the move or having to reset and get the platform back. So has Houston done enough? We'll have to see. But yeah, interior pressure is a bugaboo just because of the way he plays the position, where when he has that base under him, you see the perfect throws.
Yeah, like you said, we're gonna find out pretty quickly. Like the first 3-4 weeks of the season, we're probably gonna know what this year is going to look like for them right away. Amanda, going to you with little glass half empty here. This was so disappointing, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it, and then I'm excited to hear Thor's, because Emeka Egbuka, for everything. I mean, we were ready to go wherever he landed, and then he landed probably, Amanda, in the worst spot possible with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I have to just do a quick callback there. Thor threw in trepidatious and bugaboo in the same episode. And I just, that's the kind of the bookend that I need here to keep me going. But yeah, Kendall, you nailed it. I mean, just kind of the perfect segue here from too many weapons, all these weapons for CJ Stroud. Now we have all these weapons for Baker Mayfield. And it's not that I don't love this player, and not that I don't think long-term it is an amazing pick for the Bucs. I just think that maybe he's a not this year kind of guy, and that's where I get this caution coming in. I mean, you have this whole year where he can sit behind and learn from Mike Evans, who, as we know, is since 2014 only knows how to do 1,000-yard plus seasons, 105 touchdowns to his name. He gets to sit and learn from guys like Chris Dogwin, right? But the biggest thing for me is Jalen McMillan still exists. Jalen McMillan had 37 catches last season that he turned into 461 yards and 8 touchdowns. I mean, sure, he started the season slow where he had one catch here for 32 yards, one catch here for 21, but his last 5 games were essentially breakouts with Chris Godwin hurt, and he still exists. And so I don't think that it's just Egbuka's role to kind of walk in and take over. I think he's going to have more of a sit back, learn from the best approach, and then next year is probably going to be his breakout season.
Thor, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, that was well set up, Cooter. That's sort of how I see it. It was a weird pick in terms of a team that desperately needed defense, help along the defensive front. You audible off of that to take a player at a position that you're crazy stocked at, both receiver in general, of course. But let's narrow it down to slot receiver. That's Chris Godwin's best position. That certainly is Jalen McMillan's best position. You look at Jalen McMillan at Washington, when they played him in the slot, he was an efficiency monster. When the boundary, he's still good, but not as good. Jalen McMillan's game plays best in the slot. And then beyond that, Sterling Shepard, they have as well. They took Tez Johnson, who free fell because Tez Johnson, the poor man's Tank Dell of this class, because of his size. If he is to make it in the NFL, if he is to hang around at all, it has to be in the slot. So I was surprised that they prioritized Egbuka. It's sort of a nod towards the future. Obviously, you're not going to have Mike Evans forever, but when you don't, who do you intend to kick out to the boundary? You have this crazy collection of slot receivers. as Seattle's kind of doing that as well, Kendall, not to go into your backyard with that, with all the solid receivers on that roster. But I'm curious to see what Tampa Bay is doing here. Maybe they have an idea that Evans ain't going to be playing, as long, free agent after 2026. So we'll see on all that. But yeah, interesting fit there. And I agree, for year one fantasy, not the best for Egbuka.
Not the best. Dynasty, though, if you have the ability to be patient with Emeka Egbuka, that could be one that really pays off 2026 and beyond. And you said it, Thor, Mike Evans contracts coming up. Chris Godwin, too. Like, that was the other weird part. They just gave him a 3-year extension, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. I know that they came out and said that this draft pick with Emeka Egbuka has nothing to do with Chris Godwin's return from injury. So that's the other good part, but it does give them a little bit of time to not have to rush him back. And, they're getting older. Unfortunately, we never want injuries, but I don't think all of us would be surprised if one of them had to go down for a couple games next season just because of the age. And we started to see it kind of happening last season. So that's the other thing with them. My last one here, guys, I'm going to do a little bit of a spicier one, and I'm going to go with Tyler Warren. I'm a little bit pessimistic about Tyler Warren, and it has nothing to do with Tyler Warren. Unfortunately, it has everything to do with the quarterback situation. And so that's the other thing where Tyler Warren is going to be a phenomenal tight end in the NFL. He is going to be making plays. I still think he can, finish as a top 10 tight end, because once you get past the top 4, when we look at fantasy points and points per game, they all are very close together there. So my thing, though, Thor, when I look at Tyler Warren, is that I'm a little bit nervous about Anthony Richardson. And I've been someone that has always hyped him up, that has always said that he's going to be a bounce back player. He's going to get back to it. But when you have someone that has a 47.7% completion percentage in 2024, that makes me nervous that while Tyler Warren is so talented, that maybe, Anthony Richardson can't turn it around. Like, he's got a career completion percentage of 50.6%. So I'm just nervous about the targets and the quarterback situation. And this has nothing at all to do with Tyler Warren, the athlete, because he is just that good.
For sure.
Kendall, I'm sorry, Thor.
Go ahead, Cooter. No, go ahead, Cooter.
So I just got to say, it's not just the quarterbacks. I mean, this is a run-first offense. I mean, you look at Jonathan Taylor. He had 303 carries last season. And I looked at the stats here because I'm like, let's see what the threat to Tyler Warren could be, Kendall, because I like this take on you being a cup half empty. Mo Alley Cox had 22 targets, 12 catches last season. Drew Ogletree, 14 targets, 9 catches. So not a threat there. You know who had 5 targets less than both tight ends combined? Jonathan Taylor. So I just think like he's more of a threat here than these other tight ends. So which I guess it's like two sides of the coin. Is it okay? It's Tyler Warren's game. He's the tight end, but also like they aren't really throwing to them to begin with. So I'm very nervous, and I'm sure Thor has beautiful numbers to back this up too, but I am nervous.
I'm going to go against you guys on this one. I think Tyler Warren. Okay. I get what you're saying about the landing spot. Totally get it. But I heard a lot about this last year with regards to Brock Bowers and the travesty of an offense that he went to. And my whole thing was that guy is situation proof. He had the idiot play caller on his team. Was it Getsy or whatever? He's play caller proof. And the reason is because you manufacture touches for him, and the draft equity that the team put into, that they are going to continue to they have all the incentive in the world to keep using them that way. PPR players, I think, are going to love Tyler Warren right out of the gate because, again, all those touches within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, different stuff you can do like that. I think also, and this is a little bit under the radar, but I think that Tyler Warren is going to siphon off some fantasy value from Jonathan Taylor because one of the better wildcat running quarterbacks, short yardage that we've had in college football the last 4 or 5 years. Tyler Warren around the goal line, former quarterback Tyler Warren, you're going to see him bullying his way into the end zone and siphoning some touchdowns from Jonathan Taylor, I believe.
Listen, I hope I'm honestly,
excited.
Tyler, if you're watching, I hope I'm wrong, because that means I'm still drafting you in fantasy football. I'm just being a little bit, I'm being cautious. He's not going to go as high as he usually was. But let me just say this, Thor, Gardner Minshew, for all it's worth, still had a 66.3% completion percentage. Like, get me there with the quarterbacks, and I'll be like, okay, is better. But when it's sitting at 47.7%, I'm gonna be a little bit. Even Aiden O'Connell, 63.4%. Like it was better. So get me there, and I'm gonna be happy about it. But Tyler Warren, if you're watching this, which obviously huge fan of the show, I'm sure. I hope I'm wrong. Let's continue. Let's continue on here, guys. Before we do, let's go and check in with our friends at Bud Light.
Check out the new whip.
Tight.
Fully custom.
How many Bud Lights can you fit in that puppy?
As many Bud Lights as it takes.
It's a lot of Bud Lights. You have to give me one of those.
All right, we're doing Dynasty depths because we've got the one and only Thor Nystrom here. So you know that we have to ask about these incoming rookies. Amanda, I want you though, like we've got 4 names here ready to go for Thor. I want you to pick the first one that you have the most questions about for the Dynasty depths, because we've gotten a ton of questions over these last couple weeks about Dynasty. Who do I stash? Who's someone that everyone should be talking about, but they're not? So I want you to pick the first guy here.
Okay, well, can we stick with the Colts here and then talk about DJ Giddens? Because running back, these guys that when we talk about sleepers, my brain always goes to running back, because who's the guy that I'm going to snag at the very end, or maybe I get him on waivers later on that could have this come up. So 5th round to the Colts. I mean, we know that it's a run-heavy offense. We know that Jonathan Taylor is there, but Thor, talk me up. How is he going to make his way onto this team and carve out a role?
I like DJ Giddens as a player. I can't talk you up on the fantasy value, though. I think this was a horrible landing spot for him. You know, if I'm the Colts, I want a receiving back out of this class. I want like a Brashard Smith, one of the 7th rounder of the Chiefs. DJ Giddens, that's the biggest question of his evaluation, outside of the fact that he played literally 0 special team snaps in college. One of the other reasons that he ended up falling, but is the passing down utility. He doesn't block at all. He is one of the matadors of this class. He ain't getting involved with that. And then as a receiver, you see flashes with him and then a lot of inconsistency. The thing that I like about Giddens' game, Cooter, you were setting this up, very natural runner. He's tall and he runs angular like that, but he's still super shifty between the tackles. I like his vision with that. He's slippery almost. And then you saw the athleticism during the pre-draft process when he gets into the second level, especially into the third, and then he gets going, you have a problem getting him down. He'll erase angles with his speed. Very, very good athlete. I like some of the instincts as a natural runner. Some of those other elements of his game, and particularly the Colts here, you would think, again, a 3rd down kind of a guy, they're going to have to work with DJ Giddens on his ball skills. You see too many easy flubs.
The team added Khalil Herbert. I guess, Thor, the only way that we can say for, when we're talking Dynasty, if you have, again, the patience and you want to wait it out with DJ Giddens, that's one thing that you can do. But it sounds like you just don't believe that, like, the only way that he's going to find fantasy success sooner rather than later is being Taylor's primary backup. And it doesn't sound like you believe that he could do that.
Yeah, for sure. Like a perfect spot for it would have been like the Saints, right? And then he can take some of the early down stuff from Kamara, right? And then he doesn't have to be on the field for the passing downs that, they inconsistent at best for DJ Giddens at this time. And again, you do not want him back there as the guy protecting your quarterback. So yeah, we'll end up seeing, but yeah, he does have talent, but not the best situation.
All right, let's go
he said.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Kendall. He said a quote that I just was like excited for the future, at least, because you don't hear, sometimes these guys are so excited that they talk themselves up more than anything. But he did say that he doesn't mind taking that backseat role to somebody like Jonathan Taylor, and that he can learn from him, and he's going to just sit back and listen. And he said, I'm going to be a sponge around him. And that kind of got me excited, at least for the future for the Colts, knowing that he's like, hey, I'm not the guy here. I'm here to learn. And when it's my turn, I'll take over. So that was exciting.
Hopefully. Thor's like, no, don't get excited. Don't get excited.
You're not going to have a choice.
Don't waste your
He
time.
better be okay sitting behind JT. That's what you're doing.
Thor, I know who I need to ask you about, and it is your guy, Isaac Tesla. Not Tesla, by the way. Not Tesla, everyone. Tesla, who, like, again, another interesting landing spot when you look at it, because he was drafted by the Lions in the 3rd round, and a lot went into that. So I need to know, and dynasty managers need to know, like, is he actually going to, same question, is he going to carve out a role? Do we look at the draft capital and say, well, they obviously wanted him. What's his 2025 season going to look like?
Tesla, like coleslaw, but we're going electric here with Mr. Tesla. This is a guy talking about big slots. That's what Tesla was. Detroit is mentioned. I thought this was really interesting that they're going to work with him on the boundary as well. We'll see where his ultimate destiny is. As you guys know, they have the interchangeable parts with the receivers that play inside, play outside. You can move them around. Johnson loved to do that. The new play caller. We'll see how much you get out of that. But if indeed Tesla ends up staying on the inside, then that would mean Amon-Ra has obviously got to play more outside. Tesla needs a little bit of work still. There's raw elements of his game, of course, but he can do some things that you can't teach. For how big he is, almost 6'4", 210 or so, absolute burner, as far as the speed. And then he jumps out of the gym. That was something, before his athletic testing, when me and producer Swing were down there on the bleachers in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, him burning the guys down the field, but then also at the catch point, getting up off the carpet, the defensive back one-on-one situation, you're not getting higher than Tesla, and he's really good at high pointing the ball. He tested elite with agility as well in the pre-draft process. That was the stunner, because Arkansas never used him on the intermediate stuff. The role that Tesla had at Arkansas was a lot of just send him deep. So it'd be interesting to see if that agility, which was dormant before, we didn't know about it, if he will be able to win in the intermediate sector of the field and become a fully fleshed out kind of receiver. That we'll have to see. But yeah, Tesla would be a long-term play for me. Maybe not short-term. We have to see the way that they end up using them.
So more dynasty rather than redraft. Oh, sorry, Amanda.
Exactly.
Okay.
I keep doing that. Sorry, Kendall. I think back to Jaden Reed here, and I don't think Amon-Ra is sitting down with a GM, his agents there, and saying like, hey, am I still the wide receiver one? What's going on here, right? I mean, Thor, I read about this guy, and there's some people that are really concerned and worried, that saying that he can't separate from defenders and he struggles to escape. But the Lions traded multiple third-round picks and moved up 32 spots to get him. So it's kind of one of those situations where maybe the team knows how they're going to utilize him and what they need to do with him, and we need to just sit back and watch it happen. I mean, the Lions have proven over the last few years that the coaching and everything going on there has completely turned around. So this offense, I'm inclined not to doubt their decision here. You know what I mean? And if you're in on him, Thor, I am too.
Yeah, that idea comes from, I think, the limited usage more than, the way that they use him, right? A lot of the stuff down the field where, you're going to have company at the catch point there, right? I think that's what it comes from. But just going to the numbers on that, receiving grade against zone underneath and over the top, 98th percentile Tesla last year. Separation percentage, 76th percentile, just over the ocean of it, but 85th percentile against single coverage. I think the other thing that, where people lose it with him, we didn't get to see the intermediate stuff. But when you see a guy in that physical package that had the 3-cone and the short shuttle that he did, and then you understand contextually they weren't using him that way, that's how you can start to dream. And the Lions, they identify their guys, and they will dream on their guys. And if they're right about this kid's going to be a stud in the NFL. Just as 99th percentile receiving grade last year for Tesla. He was in a bad situation at Arkansas, both in terms of the depth there and then the throwing. The quarterback's not the most accurate, but Tesla could be a diamond in the rough for sure.
All right, continuing on, Thor, with the dynasty depths and everyone needing to know which rookies they have to go after. Can we talk about Brashard Smith? Because there's been back and forth here about, which Chiefs rookie is going to be more valuable. So I'm really curious with you, like what you saw in him and if he really can be someone that climbs up depth charts and surprises us halfway, even at the beginning of the season, maybe.
We're going to see Brashard Smith on the field next year for sure. We just saw her. Brashard Smith, one of the best receiving backs in this class, and it's something that the Chiefs have been looking for. As a mix and match guy, you're going to see him right away. Former Miami slot receiver. He was stuck behind Xavier Restrepo there with the Hurricanes. Goes to SMU last year and immediately shoved aside all the running backs, 4-star type guys, and stuff, and was playing right away. I just love him as a receiver, and it's something that the Chiefs offense has been screaming out for. So you're going to see him right away. And would it shock me if he develops into a starter? You pick the right place to go to. You have the opportunity there. And then the other 7th-round pick they took a couple of years ago, Pacheco, he was getting on the field right away. So that's not a coaching staff based on draft equity who's going to keep you on the bench. They will play the best player. And Brashard Smith is the best receiving back on that roster right now.
Let me hang on. Wait 1 second, Thor. Between Brashard Smith and Jalen Royals, given the choice, who would you take for 2025? Is it Brashard Smith?
For 2025, yeah, probably Brashard.
Okay,
yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, I get that. Jake Trowbridge and I were going back and forth yesterday, and producer Swing was like, well, I thought Brashard Smith was the right choice. So Thor, I thought you were going to side with us because we said Jalen Royals, but that's, it's fine. We can talk about it later.
And look,
I think
he's also a fast guy, Thor. I mean, like third fastest 40 time at the combine. And I know you said that the Chiefs don't really care as much about draft equity, but they did trade up to get him. And they were very vocal about how they had him higher on their board than where they took him. So they're like excited for this flashy guy who can maybe do some kick return opportunities, and he has the speed, and he used to play wide receiver, right, Thor? And so, I mean, he can make these plays. I'm excited for it, but more than anything, I think, like you said, it's just a really, really good fit.
Yeah, that's what it is. You have a team that's looking for a receiving back. If nothing else, a mix and match guy. The skill set goes really well there, and I totally agree with them having higher on the board. I was shocked how far Brashard Smith fell down. I had him like 100 spots higher on my board than the Chiefs ended up getting him. You know, I'd be curious, you know, where they ended up having him on their final board. But that receiving utility, it speaks for itself. You're outside linebacker. You're a strong safety. You have to deal with a literal slot receiver coming out of the backfield. It's already unorthodox there, and how sudden he is with the cuts. He can break some ankles out there in the open field. Obviously, has the ball skills of a receiver. But you also saw, you know, previously dormant running back ability last year. I thought there was more vision and feel there with Brashard Smith than he had any business having his first year as a running back at SMU. And SMU made the college football playoff. This isn't down there at the bottom of the FBS. That team was legit last year, and in large part the offense was because of Brashard Smith.
All right. Well, look, let's talk about one other position here in these dynasty depths. A guy that is Kendall's team. She's sporting the hat today, but Jalen Milroe, third round to the Seahawks. We know that this offense in general looks entirely different. I'm sorry, Kendall. I mean, the wide receivers have been gutted. We know Geno Smith's not there anymore. They signed Sam Darnold to this 3-year contract. Do you think that we see Jalen Milroe in 2025?
We're not going to see him much in 2025 outside of potentially some wrinkles in the offense around the goal line, having him run. I think you might see some of that stuff. They're going to obviously try to teach him some of the anticipatory timing type passing concepts this year on the bench. You get the developmental year. Sam Darnold's contract was set up so you do have an out on that if he doesn't end up working out, and you've given yourself some runway here for Milroe's development. They have guys on that coaching staff that are either related to or came directly from the Baltimore Ravens and John Harbaugh's staff that brought up Lamar Jackson. That building, they know what they're doing as far as this goes, and this was sort of the perfect guy, 92nd pick to target here. If Darnold doesn't end up working out, this is the guy.
It's the third quarterback the Seahawks have taken in the last 16 years. So you know that they don't do it often, but when they do, it's obviously someone that they really like. So I'm hoping, you know, Jalen Milroe doesn't have a path, you know, necessarily like you said, Thor, this year, but for Dynasty, you know, if you're willing to wait, you know, if he gets the opportunity, he's going to boom. And so that's the fun part about Jalen Milroe and the rushing upside that he has there as well. You hear that, Thor? Look at us. You're just such a professional that you're getting this done. Like, what are you doing next week? We should just keep you around. It's fantastic.
Hey, for you two, I always got time.
I love it. Well, Thor, thank you so much for joining us here today. Everyone can see at Thor. That's where you go and give him a follow on Twitter, on X. For Kendall, for Amanda, aka Cooterdoodle, to all of you guys. We'll see you here next time.